the thing that changed my life was in 1999, I saw a 48-year-old young man from Miami, Florida, who I call Big Ed in all my books. He's a real guy. And Big Ed looked exactly like a biker, you know, kind of big gut and, you know, scraggly beard like mine, long hair. And Big Ed was diagnosed with inoperable coronary artery disease. All the blood vessels in his heart were closed up. You couldn't put stents in them. You couldn't put bypasses in them because there wasn't any place to put them. And Big Ed, like so many people that I used to see, would go around the country to centers like Columbia in New York, to the Mayo Clinic, to the Cleveland Clinic, Texas Heart Institute, Stanford, to see if they could find a famous surgeon to take him on. And everywhere he went, everybody said the same thing. No, can't do anything about it. So I'm usually at the end of that tour. And so Big Ed arrives in my office bearing his angiogram, the coronary angiogram, movie of his blood vessels, from Miami 6 months earlier. And I'm looking at his angiogram, you know, on the computer. And I said, well, you know, Big Ed, I don't turn people down, but I gotta tell you, I agree with everybody else. There's nothing I can do for you. And he says, well, Doc, let me tell you. I've been on a diet for the last 6 months, and I've lost 45 pounds. Now, this was a guy who was 265 pounds when I met him, hence the name Big Ed. He was still huge, but 45 pounds, 6 months, that's pretty impressive. And he says, and I went to a health food store, and I've been taking all these supplements. And he literally has a shopping bag full of supplements that he has with him. You know, he puts them on the table. And I said, well, Big Ed, I'll tell you, good for you for losing weight, but it's not going to do anything in here. And I know what you did with all those supplements. You made expensive urine. You've wasted your money. And I really believe that, really did. So he said, I can still remember, he lets out a big sigh. He says, look, he says, why don't we do a new angiogram? I've come all this way. I've done all this work. Maybe I did something. And I'm scratching my professor beard and going, okay. So the next day we do an angiogram, and lo and behold, in 6 months' time, this guy has cleaned out 50% of the blockages in his coronary arteries. Gone. Gone. Never seen anything like it in my life. Impossible. But there it is. And I go, Big Ed, this is great news. I'm going to operate on you tomorrow. Because now there's places I can put bypasses. And in fact, I did. Now, if I knew what I knew today, of course, I wouldn't have done that, but I was pretty dumb back then. So I did a 5-vessel bypass, and it went great. But I'm a researcher. I was chairman of heart surgery and professor at Loma Linda University, professor of surgery and pediatrics, did all the baby heart transplants with my partner, Leonard Bailey. Yeah, that was us. And anyhow, I said, after the operation, I said, tell me about this diet of yours. And he starts telling me, and about 2 sentences in, I said, wait a minute, time out. I went to Yale back in the dark ages when we could actually design our own major. And so we'd be smart enough to design our own major. And that was the 60s. And so my major was, I had a thesis that you could take a great ape, change its environment, and manipulate its food supply, and prove that you would end up with a human being. And I actually defended my thesis. I got an honors, thank you very much. And so I gave it to my parents, and I went off to medical school and became a famous heart surgeon. So why it was so poignant listening to Big Ed, when I arrived at Loma Linda about 15 years earlier, I weighed about 148 pounds. And when I was talking to Big Ed, I weighed 228 pounds. Despite the fact that I was running 30 miles a week, I was going to the gym 1 hour every day. I was doing 5Ks, 10Ks, half marathons on the weekends. And my cholesterol numbers were out of control. I had high blood pressure. I had pre-diabetes. I had such bad arthritis in my knees that I had to wear braces to run. And I'm told this is normal because I'm getting older. And my father had high cholesterol, and my father was pre-diabetic. So this is genetic. And nothing you can do about it. So Ed's telling the story, and I said, this is actually my thesis that you've been following. So I called my parents down in San Diego, and I said, hey, do you still have my thesis? And they said, oh, yeah. It's over here in the shrine next to the eternal flame. It really was. And so I said, send it up to me. Bring it up to me. So it arrived, and in the meantime, I'm sitting there talking with Big Ed, and he said, let me see this bag of supplements of yours. And I said, now, how'd you do all this? And, I'm taking them out. And he says, well, this one looked interesting, and, this one had a pretty package. And I said, oh, yeah, okay. So I start looking at a couple of these things. Now, I'm also very famous for resuscitating dead hearts. I can take a heart from a baby that's been dead for an hour, take the heart out, put some magic concoction through the blood vessels, and that heart will start up again and work perfectly fine. They used to call me Dr. Gunderstein. But it's true. Published all these results. So as I'm pulling out these things, I said, holy cow, I'm using a lot of these compounds in my magic elixir mix to resuscitate hearts. But I've been giving them through the veins and the arteries of these hearts, and it never occurred to me to swallow the dumb things. It really didn't occur to me. So I said, what the heck? I got nothing to lose. I'd been on every diet in the world. South Beach, cabbage soup diet, egg diet, name a diet, I've been on it. And I could lose 20 pounds, boom, and then I'd gain 25. Everybody know that feeling? Classic yo-yo dieter. So I put myself on my program that I'd written about in college, and I started taking a ton of supplements. And I thought I would follow what I'd done in the lab, and that's how I started doing it. And I lost 50 pounds my first year, and I subsequently lost another 20. So I started putting my patients that I operated on my program. And lo and behold, their diabetes went away. Never forget the first time one of my patients who was a diabetic called me and said, Doc, there's something in these supplements that you're giving me that is making me dizzy and lightheaded. And I'm going, there's nothing in there. It does that. I said, get in here. And we take a blood sugar on them, and their blood sugars was like, 60. And their blood pressure was 90/50. And I said, well, gee, let's cut your diabetes medicine in half and, stop this blood pressure medicine. And they'd call back in a month, say, I'm dizzy again, and blah, blah, blah. And, of course, we had to stop all their diabetic meds, and we had to stop all their blood pressure meds. And then people would call up and say, I know you're treating me for heart disease, but, I've had, in the morning, my hands are so stiff, and, my knees creak, I can't even walk up the stairs, and now my hands aren't stiff anymore. And what's with that? And so after about a year of doing this at Loma Linda, I looked in the mirror one Friday morning, getting ready for work, and I said, I can't do what I'm doing anymore. I can't operate on these people and then tell them how to avoid me the rest of their lives. I need to teach them how to never have me operate on them.